And you're like, we really need to talk more about men's health because so many men are kind of drowning.
This was my idea?
This was your idea. Our last episode, we talked about drinking, sobriety. The motto was shit or get off the pot.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ended talking a little bit about, quitting drinking as step one, but then step two is kind of figuring out, okay, what caused you to be running from your life, I guess, in the first place? Is that what you do when you're drinking? Are you running from your life?
I think you start out thinking it's a party because it's the social norm, the high school party, the college party, the going out with your business colleagues party. But one day the party ends.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it ends a lot sooner than people leave it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I'm like, you should have left the party 20 years ago.
Dude, you should have Mick Jaggered that thing and just walked on through, wave, leave.
What does Mick Jagger that thing mean?
The old story is that Mick Jagger would walk through a party, wave, shake hand, and he'd have his car just circle around the back, and he'd just walk right on through that party and go right out the back door. And the Instagram I just heard about this was that celebrities don't ever really stay long at an event. They're in and out, in and out, in and out. It's not because they have other social engagements and they have stuff to do, but because they understand that the desire to have more of them and not be revealed. They're saying like the Leonardos and the Brad Pitts and stuff of the world, they're just high, gone. And you're like going, oh my God. And their mystery stays, your desire to know more and understand. Like, what if you're sitting there talking to one of these big time celebrities and you're like, oh, you're fucking boring. You don't have much to say.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's probably the case with a lot of them. I think a lot of them have horrible social skills and social anxiety. And so they just don't like to stay at parties that long for that reason. I'm sure there are really cool celebrities that chill and hang out. But also some of these events are just like a see and be seen. And you sound cooler if you say, sorry, I got to get to the next event.
Yeah. Why are you raining on my parade?
I just sometimes think Instagram videos like that are dumb. I'm like, where'd you get your information?
It's fucking real, man. It's on the gram. I know. I mean, like, don't you know that everything is real? It made sense to me. It made sense to me that going, it's the mystery of someone that you're like, oh my God, like, wow. You'll always wonder what it would have been like to have a conversation with them.
Nobody will wonder that about you right now.
Who the fuck are you?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying.
I'm not trying to leave the party early.
I know you're not.
What do you want out of this?
Nothing.
Why did you say that nobody's going to think I'm interesting?
No, of course you're interesting, but you're not one to leave a party early. We're sitting here on a podcast opening us up to the world. What?
I forgot we were on the podcast. I was just so in my natural elm. I just forgot the mic was here.
No, I don't mean to be rude to you. I'm in my luteal phase, though, so I have a shorter fuse.
Oh, dude, I get these luteal phases things. If you guys don't know what that is, she put me on the app so I can track her cycle. And we're in the fucking might want to hide out cycle, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
Just like you wake up one day and you're like, I want to murder everybody that I know and
wonderful.
And sail in a boat down the river.
I have little brushes of this, and when I talk to tables at the restaurant, I like to only spin like.
Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
I'm bulletproof. You can't offend me. I'm a man. Oh, I think this is what you want to talk about on the podcast. I'm a man. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Nothing hurts me. I'm okay. I'm just fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I got it.
Yeah, it is what I want to talk about. I'm reading another book on teenagers and teenage emotions.
Because I remind you of a teenager?
No, because you have 3 teenagers that I care about. And sometimes when they're really emotional, I get stressed out, but it's apparently very normal. But I was reading some passages and I was reading them to you on a day when you felt particularly overwhelmed. And you're like, we really need to talk more about men's health because so many men are kind of drowning.
This was my idea?
This was your idea.
Can you ring-cam that back to us, please? I don't believe I said.
We were in a car.
Exactly. Yep. Always an excuse.
Okay. I hate it when you shush me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shush you. But a stat that I found really interesting is, well, I guess to take it a step back before I read out this stat, is that there are gender stereotypes when it comes to men and women and their emotions. And like, women are known to tell everything to their girlfriends. And if something goes wrong, like it's like everybody's on speed dial. Everybody knows, like you're dating somebody and they send you a text message. It's like a whole girl committee analyzes every word of that text message. And then men don't tell anybody anything for the most part. It's just like, oh, everything's fine.
Everything's good. Tell a dirty joke, laugh, ha ha, life is good. How's the sporting team doing? We all good.
Yeah, men don't really express sadness much. They don't necessarily express a lot of just joy. The emotions that men feel comfortable expressing are usually like anger and frustration or pleasure at somebody else's expense.
Laughing at others.
In this book, it's really interesting because we've sort of created this for our society and enforcing these gender stereotypes and gender norms. And something that I thought was really sad is that boys and girls show an equal amount of emotion when they're babies and when they're born. But between kindergarten and first grade, boys express 50% less of anxiety and sadness than their female counterparts.
Because they got their shit locked up. They're under control, man. Those boys are down to earth. They got under like,
but
whoa.
It's so sad.
Why are you losing your brain?
Stop.
Oh. I thought it was Old Dog New Tricks.
I thought that you were going to lean in and be vulnerable in this episode, and you're actually incredibly obnoxious.
Okay. I will.
Take a deep breath.
Yes, actually, I did bring this up. We did talk about this the other day. I am concerned with the amount of emotions my children show and the vulnerability that they show. And my therapist says, yo, bro, if you continue to hold all this shit in, you're going to explode.
Yeah. And your kids are going to grow up managing emotions the same way you do. Like our kids learn not from what we say, but from what we do. They watch how we handle our lives. They watch how we take care of ourselves. They watch us to see what emotions are safe to express, what are not safe to express. And to me, this just broke my heart, like thinking like of a little kindergarten, sweet first grade boy who already feels like if he's sad, he has to hold that in. He can't tell anybody that somebody hurt his feelings because that's not what boys do. Boys don't cry. And I'm like, that's so heartbreaking. This innocent little boy doesn't get to experience the full spectrum of emotions because our society has deemed that it's weak for men to show emotions. And I was reading through of like, well, why does this happen? And it's because young children are so desperate to get their parents' attention. Like that's what you need to survive as a young child. And that's where our attachment wounds come from if we're not getting the right kinds of attention from our parents when we're that age. And so since kids are so desperate to get our attention, it's our boys, when they're sad or they're upset, we don't give them much attention. We're just like, you're fine, suck it up. Whereas girls, when they're sad, we're like, oh, come here, it's going to be okay. Like, what upset you? And then vice versa. It says that this book that I'm reading is saying when little girls are angry, we kind of ignore them. We're just like, oh, it's okay, just let it go. But when little boys are angry, we indulge them in their anger. And it's like, yeah, that's right. Like that's so frustrating. And so we teach boys like it's okay to be angry. It's not okay to be sad. We teach little girls it's not okay to be angry, but it's okay to be sad. And then we end up with this generation of men and women who can't express the full spectrum of emotions. And the full spectrum of emotions are like what
you're getting so sad.
What
makes me to hold your hand?
No, I'm not getting sad.
I love you.
I'm premenstrual.
Keep going. I'm sorry. I wanted to comfort you. No. I wanted to hold you because you were getting sad.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, we're raised that way.
No, that was that point. You can comment.
You got it. You nailed it. We talk about things on this podcast, hoping to bring up subjects that people can discuss amongst themselves or ask us questions and heal our wounds as we're doing it. I don't have the answers to these. I am 100% that. I have suppressed my emotions for so long, constantly telling the kids, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And it's not okay. And I just don't know how to deal with that fine line of showing the emotions because I don't want my children. I mean, I've been through a divorce. We've had ups and downs. There's things, we're all evolving and trying to get through this thing called life. It's scary being the leader of the family and knowing that, I don't know, I've always looked at it as like, I have to keep calm. I have to let everybody believe I've got everything under control. I've got the bills paid. I've got the food on the table. I've got, we're all going to be okay. I'm protecting the house from bad guys. Everything's going to be okay. So I think that I can't speak for others, but then we put on this suit of armor to mask our emotions. And why do I wind up going to therapy? Because I know that I drank to suppress things. I know that I exercise excessively hard to suppress things when I do exercise. And I know that I work extremely hard to suppress things. So there's a lot of stuff. And I'm glad at least my addictions now are better than alcohol, but I still am not relating to my emotions and the current life situations of just breathing and being comfortable in the here and now.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I think one is that there's like this myth and this fear that you have, or that a lot of people have, that like emotions are going to drown you or overtake you. And like by showing emotions, like you're one step next to your like mental breakdown kind of thing. And your kids are going to think you're unstable. And it's like, that's not what it means. And there are still boundaries. Like you don't tell your kids every negative thing that happens, like especially like going through a divorce. We've seen what happens when like a parent overshares about their emotions and their perspective on the divorce. That's really damaging for children. But there are other ways when you can say like, oh, like this is really hard. Like I'm sorry you're going through this. Like this hurts my heart. This makes me sad. Like it's okay to be sad, and like giving your children permission to feel their feelings as well, because if they always see you being like, it's okay, don't be sad, then they think that they can't feel their feelings either. And I think like as parents of young children, which your children are teenagers now, so it's kind of just like, how can you model good emotions for them? I think that's the same thing that we do.
How can I fix the damage I've already done? Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, but it's like every parent damages their child in some way, using damages like lightly. Like that's just part of life, is being wounded and healing from those wounds. But I think it's really important, if you're raising young boys or young girls, that you try not to treat their emotions differently. Like I know there's this like big fear from super right-wing Republicans that we're like losing masculine men. And I don't think that that's what we should do. Like I think that we should still allow men to be men and women to be women, but everybody should be able to experience the full spectrum of their emotions without being shamed for them.
100%. But what you did just say, that there is some serious overparenting happening in certain parts of our society. I think maybe a little bit more, I don't know, but you see some of the way that parents are raising their children these days. There's a lot of people that are like the old school way, everything we just said, suppress the emotions on the boys, coddle the girls when they're upset. But there's a lot of parents now that don't let their children walk across the street without holding their hand, that just like overly parent these kids, and they put them in bubble wrap. And it's really, I mean, there's a whole nother side across the road of this like overprotective. I let my kids crash on bikes and stub their toes and do these things and do real natural things. But there's a lot of parents, especially because of COVID and stuff, I think it is, that just don't let their children go experience real life. So that again is another side of the whole problem.
I'll comment on that, which is I read this book, or I haven't quite finished it, called The Anxious Generation, and it's by Jonathan Haidt. It's a great book. I've heard he's been on some podcasts. You're not a big reader, but he talks about how we are overprotecting our children in the real world and underprotecting them in the online world. And allowing children to have unsupervised play is super crucial to their development of emotions, to conflict management. Like they have to learn on their own. Like if, Tommy
pushes you off the swing,
steals my toy, like I need to be able to navigate how to get that back in a healthy way without an adult stepping in. And I think that we do our children a disservice when we do things for them that they can do for themselves. And so I do think that you give.
Do you mean like cutting their steak
I was
and
just gonna
cutting
call you
their
out for that.
their fruit?
I think that you
their dishes.
do a good job of letting them explore on their own in a healthy way, but you coddle them at home. Like your kids are 13 and 15 and you cut their steak into little bite-sized pieces for them. They don't really cook, they don't really clean. And I think that those are things like we shouldn't be doing for our children too.
So when you get divorced, people, you feel sorry for your children. And I think there's a little bit of you give a lot. You're going, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this stressful time. Let me take care of that. Let me take care of that. And I'm finally getting out of it a little bit, I hope. But I certainly did spoil my children. And yes, I still do cut their steak. And I do. Because they look like barbarians when they're cutting their steak. I can't watch it. It's like,
they have to learn. Like learning is a messy thing. And I think as parents, like getting comfortable with letting our children be uncomfortable. I think that's probably something that you struggle with. And a lot of parents do. And I'm not a parent. So I'm speaking from a non-parent lens. And I'm sure when I'm a parent, it's going to be so hard for me to watch my child struggle. But like, that's such an important part of healthy development is letting your children experience uncomfortable emotions and uncomfortable things without getting in there trying to fix it. And I think that also stems back to your mental health of like this summer, we kind of unexpectedly had the kids more than anticipated without any help. And I think that you have some undealt with guilt around probably the divorce, around how much you were working when the kids were younger. And you feel like it's not okay for you to take care of yourself if you taking care of yourself would interfere with anything that your children wanted.
100%. So I just give myself fully to them when I'm here.
Yeah. Oh. And then you completely deplete yourself and you kind of crash into a wall and then you build yourself back up when you have time. But do you think do you want to teach your children that that's how they should be caring for their children?
So I'm a Libra and our symbol is balance. But I think what most people don't realize is a Libra is striving for balance and never, ever has it. They're like, oh, nothing. Oh, nothing. I sometimes get depressed looking at life and how many obstacles and how many problems and how many things we have. We do have the sun. We do have the oxygen. We do have, the oceans and the mountains and the trees and so many beautiful things. But man, we are a fucked up lot, right? Us humans.
I think you're deflecting.
Great. So as long as it's not looking at me and we're looking at everyone else, this podcast is over. I'm so good at deflecting.
I know, but we're talking about you. We're not talking about humanity.
I try to look at people in either my community or people that are in public places we can see them, celebrities, athletes, whatever it is, and look at who has the right balance, who can handle family, career, mental health, exercise, business. And there's not a ton of examples readily available on my Rolodex.
Yeah. I mean, I think that also you can't believe what you see on social media. And I feel like I've found a really good balance in my life, but I don't have children. And I know how much that will throw off the balance of how I live my life now as if I have these little beings to take care of that are the most important thing in the world to me. Yet, I also feel like that's when it's most important to learn how to have balance in your life because I watch the way that you are and I kind of think about myself too and thinking about having a child someday. And something that I've struggled with, most of my life is body image issues and eating issues. And now I'm in overall a good place. There's still times that I say negative things to myself, but I've shifted that and being is this how I'd want my daughter to talk to herself? Is this how I'd want my daughter to take care of herself? And I try and take care of myself with that lens in mind. I'm okay, maybe I would like to be skinnier, but I'm not going to starve myself to get there. I'm not going to skip meals or not nourish myself. I'm going to treat myself the way that I would want my child to treat themselves because that's how we teach the next generation to be more whole than we are. And if I had had a child in my 20s, I probably would have taught my child really bad coping mechanisms and bad examples. And I think that it's never too late. And so I think about you, and I think about how you don't really make time for yourself. And you're working on it, like you're going to therapy, which I think is huge. And you're kind of admitting to yourself where you would maybe like to change. But I'm like, I don't even know that you really want to change in certain areas. But I think that
my therapist said that me opening restaurants and doing these big, huge projects is my adrenaline junkie just driving, you know? I said, can I have a balance? Can I be at peace with myself and the world and do these things? And I don't think I listened to his answer because I didn't want to hear it. I think there is a balance. You said there's a balance, and I need to find that balance. Again, I'm almost 2 years sober right now. I'm still patting myself on the back for that. And
I mean, it's huge.
It's huge. And I mean, think about how horrible of an example I was to my children when I was drinking. And they're like, oh, dad's stupid today. You know, mom's stupid today. There's too much drinking. They're this and this, this. And I think that was one of the biggest reasons for me to get sober was because of my love for you and my love for my children and knowing that I had to be a better person and better example. I've gotten through that. Now it's like, oh, shit. Now it's time to look under the hood and really start figuring out what's the next thing to bring me kind of a more real happiness that is not just for me, but surrounds me for those people in my circle of trust.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, your energy right now is a little bit manic and you're kind of chasing. And I think that you can still do all the things you want to do, but you really need to work on grounding yourself so that you're not so manic and chasing. You're kind of, you know, in your creative power, which I know all this stuff does really fill up your creativity and fill up all those things. And I don't think you should have to give that up. But I think that it could come from a more grounded place. And like that starts with you building like micro daily habits. Like no matter what, even if I have my kids, these are the 3 things that I do for myself every day. Like I journal, I work out, and I get 8 hours of sleep.
And eat.
And eat. Yeah, that's an important thing. Like that I will sit down and I'll make myself, maybe not 3 meals a day, but I'll sit down and I'll have lunch and I'll sit down with my kids and make myself a plate for dinner. The other night, I always ask him, I'm like, did you feed yourself today? Because if I'm not around, he honestly won't really feed himself. He'll eat like handfuls of nuts when he feels like he's going to pass out. And then he'll eat like leftovers off of his kids' plates. And he was like, I ate leftovers off my kids' plates. And he's like, and my son was so cute. He was like, Dad, are you going to eat with us? And I was like, well, did you eat with them? He's like, no. And I'm like, well, he's watching you. He's going to think that like being a good dad one day means he doesn't get to sit down and have his own plate of food. He doesn't get to sit down and relax.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So all you people out there that thought you got it going on, do you got it going on? You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure I know I have things I need to work on also. This was mostly about you and the things that you need to work on. But I think I don't want it to, it did come off as all the things I'm frustrated with you or that I want you to work on. But I also want to commend you because you work so hard to make everybody around you happy. Like you give all of yourself to make your children happy. You work really hard to make me happy. And then unfortunately, there's not really any energy left to make you happy other than your work. And like your work is really the only place that you allow yourself to be selfish in any way whatsoever. And I put that in quotation marks, but like that's the only place that you feel like you're allowed to take up space in your life, I think. And so I see how hard you're working. Like you're kind of super single dad. Like you spend more time with these kids than probably any other dad does. Especially
every other week.
Yeah, this summer. And that leaves you in a very difficult position to focus on yourself.
Yeah. Well, so there are not a lot of answers, but there are a lot of questions. Yeah, have fun with that and have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.
Follow us on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube. Leave us a rating and review. We love it. Send us any questions.
Yeah. I dare you to.